I welcome you in Module 2. I hope you've set your goals for the course and are eager to start absorbing information. In this lesson, we're going to figure out who a truck dispatcher really is and what functions they perform. We begin our training with the very basics and will gradually move on to more and more highly specialized information. Complexity of the information will be constantly increasing, so it is most important to build a quality foundation of general knowledge. So, who is a truck dispatcher in the United States? In the trucking industry, a lot depends on reliable drivers, and they're usually considered the backbone of the system. But they're not the only employees responsible for its success. Dispatchers also play a crucial role, and they're in great demand. In the classic worldview, a dispatcher's job is to schedule drivers to pick up and deliver freight to customers or suppliers. But in the US, that's just the beginning. In America, most transportation companies operate on a for-hire basis. Accordingly, they don't work on long-term contracts transporting goods for the same client along the same routes, but offer their services for sale and carry those goods with those clients who offer the most profitable deal. These truckers often travel all over the country and are constantly chasing the highest profits. The task of planning the most profitable route and making the most profitable deals with clients and freight brokers falls in the hands of the dispatcher. Therefore, it depends on the dispatcher how much profit the transportation company will make, and if it will make any at all. Do you feel the level of responsibility this job entails? Well, based on the above, we can write down the main areas of responsibility of a truck dispatcher. First, analysis of the freight market and selection of the most profitable routes. As a result of the analysis, a dispatcher must draw up a weekly route plan for all his trucks, taking into account the financial and operational goals of the trucking company. Second, negotiate rates directly with customers and freight brokers. A dispatcher must be able to negotiate price of transportation, bargain, and convince the broker to give the desired cargo to his company. Third, booking of freight and document management. Working with documents is not the main responsibility of the dispatcher. Usually it takes only about 10 to 15% of the overall working time. However, all the documentation should always be double-checked and filled in correctly. Fourth, coordinating drivers and controlling their work schedule. And fifth, accounting and billing for transportation services to customers of the transport company. At this point, we're starting to realize a dispatcher is not actually just a dispatcher. He's the key part of the entire company. What does a typical dispatcher do all day? Well, first, he sits down at the work desk, analyzes the market, and selects options for the most profitable routes for the week for all of his trucks. Then, according to the plan, he begins to call brokers on their load offers and negotiates prices. Once he finds a suitable load, he starts closing the deal, filling out the paperwork, checking the contracts and insurance. Once everything is filled out, it's time to coordinate the drivers, to decide who will start moving at what time, when they can deliver, when they need to take a break, etc. So, once again, a dispatcher is the key part of the entire company. If a company didn't make enough money this month, well, the dispatcher is responsible. If drivers are constantly late, the dispatcher is responsible. If paperwork is filled out incorrectly, then once again, that's a dispatcher's oversight. But don't be alarmed here. I'm not trying to get you scared. Instead, think about how much demand there is for good, professional dispatchers in America. In one of the largest industries in the world. In the industry where hundreds, sometimes even thousands, of new trucking companies are registered every single day. In an age of globalization where working from home has become the norm, when hiring foreign employees remotely has become an opportunity to cut costs. It is now that this profession is in the most demand, and with the expected growth of the market, will be even more in demand in a year, in 5 years, and even in 20 years. Many people ask me before taking the training, they say, Dmitry, you're telling us that the American trucking companies hire dispatchers remotely? Why don't they just hire dispatchers in their own country and in their own city and sit them down in an office? Well, I want to dispel this myth at the very start, so that we can begin to study in peace. I will provide a number of simple arguments that basically and logically explain this phenomenon. Firstly, 80% of all transportation companies on the market are small companies with a fleet of 1 up to 10 trucks. These are the companies that constitute the main target market of individual remote dispatchers and dispatching services. The majority of these companies simply don't even have their own office, where you might think they would place their dispatchers. They don't need an office. They aren't going to pay money for it. These companies are usually registered to the owner's home address. So, if you don't expect your employer to invite you to work at his house, put those thoughts to rest. Second, hiring a dispatcher located in the US is by an order of magnitude more expensive than hiring one overseas. The average salary in the US is about $4,000 a month, and the cost of living is about $2,500. For small companies with just one or even a couple of trucks, hiring an office worker is an unaffordable and totally illogical expense. I also mentioned that you can get a job at a large company, right? What about them? By hiring dispatchers in the US, companies not only spend money on inflated salaries for their citizens, but also pay payroll taxes, which hurt their pockets. Because a large company with a couple of hundred trucks need to have at least, a few dozen dispatchers. By hiring dispatchers remotely, companies can lower their tax rate, or by hiring dispatch services as contractors, accordingly writing off dispatch costs as an expense. Recently, we've been getting more and more inquiries from large companies looking to outsource their whole dispatch department overseas. Okay, to summarize, we learned that a dispatcher's job is to analyze the market, find freight, negotiate with brokers, fill out freight documentation, coordinate drivers, take care of invoicing, and keep operating records in order. We also learned that a dispatcher is a critical component of a transportation company. The demand for qualified dispatchers is extremely high, and hiring a remote dispatcher is a winning practice for a transportation company located in the United States. In the next lessons in this module, we will explore the other players in the trucking industry, how they cooperate with each other, and also learn the types of equipment a dispatcher can work with.